Good morning, students. This is Ruchika Sharma from Cambridge International School, Dasua. And I hope you all are studying, you all are fine, you all are safe at your homes. Now, I hope this e-learning content is helping you to learn and grow properly. And I hope you all are watching videos regularly. This is your economics lesson. And I must remind you that we have covered 2 chapters of your textbook. Chapter number 1, The Story of Village Palampur, on which you have already appeared for online quiz too. The other chapter that we have already done is People as Resource, chapter 2 of your NCERT book. Now, let's begin with chapter 3, that is Poverty as a Challenge. Dear students, this is not something that you are hearing for the first time. You must have heard the term poverty before. Now, let's go into detail and let's know about poor and poverty of India. This chapter is going to deal with one of the most difficult challenges faced by most countries of the world who are still developing, and especially India. Poverty has been one of the major limitations due to which India could not grow and develop at the expected pace. So what is poverty? What causes poverty? And how can we remove poverty from India? And what are the steps that have already been taken by our government? Let's know each of these into detail. So, after many discussions through examples, this chapter discusses the way poverty is seen in social sciences, poverty trends in India, how poverty has been reduced or increased in India and the world, right? How is poverty measured in India, right? That is the concept of poverty line. What are the causes of poverty? What are the anti-poverty measures taken by the government of India? These all topics are to be discussed in this chapter. Now, we will read what we are going to study in today's video lesson. The topics that we are going to include in today's video lesson is Introduction, 2 typical cases of poverty, urban case and rural case. Then we will discuss poverty as seen by social scientists, social exclusion and vulnerability of poverty, right? So, without wasting time, just let's start. Poor. Who are poor? You must have seen and observed many poor people around you. Right? In our daily life also, we come across many people who you think are poor. They could be landless laborers in villages or people living in overcrowded jhoggis in cities. They could be daily wage workers at construction sites or child workers in dhabas, or people who are living in slum, people who do not have shelter, people who are doing meager work. There could also be beggars with children that you will consider poor. Actually, dear students, we see poverty all around us. This is the topic that you all can understand as we see a lot of poor people around us every day. In fact, if we talk about India, then I must tell you that every fourth person is poor in India. This means roughly 27 crore people in India live in poverty, according to 2011-10 reports. Therefore, it can be concluded that India has the largest single concentration of the poor in the world. Now, let's talk about poverty in urban areas and poverty in rural areas. Let's look into detail. In your NCERT book, two typical cases of poverty are given. Let's talk about urban case first. There is a 33 years old Ram Saran who works at a daily wage laborer in a wheat flour mill in Jharkhand. He manages to earn around 1500 rupees a month whenever he finds employment, which is also not very often. The 15,000 rupees are not enough to sustain his family of 6, which includes wife, 4 children, and father and mother. He has to send money home to his old parents who live in a village near Ramgarh. His father, a landless laborer, depends on Ram Saran and his brother who lives in Hazaribagh. And if we talk about Ram Saran, who is living recently in one room rented house in a crowded basti in the outskirts of the city. His wife Shanta Devi works as a part-time maid in a few houses and manages to earn another rupees 800. They could only afford to arrange for dal and rice twice a day, but there is never enough for all of them. His elder son works as a helper in a tea shop to supplement the family income and earns another rupees 300. While his 10-year-old daughter takes care of the younger siblings. None of the children go to school. They have only 2 pairs of clothes each. They have no access to health care when they fall ill. This was the case of Ram Saran, who is living recently in urban areas. Now let's talk about Lakha Singh, who belongs to a small village in Uttar Pradesh. His family doesn't own any land, so they do odd jobs for the big farmers. At times they get paid rupees 50 for a hard day's work. But often it's in kind, like a few kilograms of wheat or dal or even vegetable. His family of 8 cannot always manage 2 square meals a day. Lakha lives in a kacha hut on the outskirts of a village. The women of the family depend and spend the day chopping fodder and collecting firewood in the fields. His father is a TB patient. Now his father is passed away 2 years ago due to lack of medication. And his mother is also suffering from the same disease. Although the village in which Lakha Singh is living has a primary school, but Lakha never went there. He had to start earning when he was just 10 years old. Even soap and oil are a luxury for the family. So, these were the 2 typical examples of poverty. One was Ram Saran, who was living in urban area and earning just rupees 1500 a month, and his wife, who is working as a maid in other people's house and earning 800 rupees a month. Both are working very hard to manage their own house, and they also need to support their old parents back home in the village. Both are just managing to arrange for 2 meals a day. They cannot afford medical facilities, they cannot afford education facilities, they cannot even afford to buy new clothes for their children. And if we talk about Lakha Singh, who is living in a village in Meerut in Uttar Pradesh, and he is just earning rupees 50 a day if he gets work in the field of big farmers, and even sometimes he gets wages in kind, few kilograms of wheat or vegetables, etc. His father passed away because he could not provide him with good medical facilities and was suffering from TB. And now his mother is suffering from the same disease, and he could not afford to provide him basic medication. Even if we are talking about grocery, then they are not even able to buy grocery for themselves. Even soap and oil seems to be luxury to them. That means they are not even able to satisfy their basic need of life. Dear students, from the above poverty cases, we are able to find out indicators of poverty, right? Actually, these two typical cases illustrate many dimensions of poverty. They show that poverty means hunger and lack of shelter. It is also a situation in which parents are not able to send their children to school, or a situation where sick people cannot afford treatment. Poverty also means lack of clean water and sanitation facilities. It all means lack of a regular job at a minimum decent level. Above all, it means living with a sense of helplessness. Poor people are in a situation in which they are ill-treated at almost every place. In farms, factories, government offices, hospitals, railway stations, etc. And nobody would like to live in poverty. This is, again, I am telling you, one of the biggest challenges of independent India. Mahatma Gandhi once insisted that India would be truly independent only when the poorest of its people become free of human suffering. In other words, you can say that Mahatma Gandhi said India would be called independent when India is independent of poverty. Therefore, if we talk about poverty, then we can simply write down poverty is a challenge that is faced globally. It affects developed countries and developing countries. But the challenges faced by the developing countries are more demanding. They vary in terms of scale. They vary in terms of difficulty and number of people involved. Though some targets have been accomplished and global poverty figures have reduced to some extent, but still there is a lot to be done in this field. This is the reason why modern scholars are focusing now on the concept of human poverty. That is, to eradicate human suffering globally. Actually, dear students, if we are talking about poverty, then poverty is seen by social scientists through a variety of indicators. And indicators of poverty can be divided into two types: economic indicators and social indicators. In economic indicators, we have low level of income and consumption. It's very easy. If a person is earning less, he's going to spending less, right? If I don't have enough income, then obviously I will not spend enough, and I will not get good quality goods and services for me, and accordingly I will be termed as poor. Two economic indicators focus on money. If I'm earning less money, I'm going to spend less money. Less money means poverty. Not only money is an instrument through which you can explain poverty, there are many social indicators which can be used to showcase the extent of poverty of a person, of a country. In social indicators, poverty is looked through illiteracy level. If person is not able to go to school and get good quality education, that person will be poor. If a person is not able to get good nutrition for himself and for his family, that person will be termed as poor. If person falls sick and he is not able to go to hospital and get good medication and treatment, that person would be poor. If person is not having decent level of job, regular job, there is lack of job opportunities for the person, then that is poor. If the person is not having safe drinking water and sanitation facilities, he does not have access to either drinking water and sanitation facility, that person will be poor. So these are social indicators of poverty. Education, health, employment opportunities, water, sanitation facilities, right? These all are indicators who highlight the trend of poverty, the extent of poverty. Now let's talk about social exclusion and vulnerability. Actually, dear learners, analysis of poverty can be based on social exclusion and vulnerability. Firstly, let's discuss social exclusion. According to this concept, poverty must be seen in terms of the poor having to live only in a poor surroundings with other poor people, excluded from enjoying social equality of better off people in better surroundings. So basically, poor people have to live with poor people only. They are not able to live with other people who are better in income and are living in better human conditions. Social exclusion can be both a cause as well as consequence of poverty in the usual sense. See, if you are living in poor, then you will not be allowed to live, or you will not be welcomed by better off people, because reason is poverty. And now when you are poor, then you have to live with poor only. You are not able to afford lifestyle of rich people, so that will the result of poverty. So social exclusion is both the reason as well as the effect of poverty. A typical example of this is the working of the caste system in India, in which people belonging to certain castes are excluded from equal opportunities. Social exclusion thus may lead to, but can cause more damage than having a very low income. Social exclusion can harm your identity, your self-confidence, your morale. That is why poor people always hesitate when they are to be center of attraction. In debates of news channels, in elections, everywhere, whenever they need to speak for themselves, they need representatives. Some section of rich society speak for poor society. poor people do not have their own representatives. As they are poor, they are illiterate, they are not having basic amenities of life. So better off people speak for them. Rights are not equal, opportunities are not equal for people who are living above poverty line and people who are living below poverty line. This is social exclusion. Dear students, watch the next video very carefully so that you can understand and analyze the effect of social exclusion on poor people.
ما هو حل المسألة؟ ما هو حل المسألة؟
After social exclusion, last topic of the day is vulnerability. Actually, there are certain communities who are more vulnerable to poverty, who are more likely to be poor, who have greater probability to be poor. Actually, vulnerability is dependent upon the options available to these people: backward caste people, physically disabled people. Options available to them means if they are able to live in a better place, if they are able to access good education and health facilities for them, if they are able to get good jobs, then obviously their vulnerability to poverty will be reduced. And if they are not able to get these facilities, if they are not having these options in hand, their vulnerability to poverty will be increased. They are going to be poor. If they are not having good education, health facilities, job opportunities, how will be they non-poor? They will be poor. Vulnerability will be more. So vulnerability depends on the options and facilities available to certain communities and certain individuals who are likely to be poor in the coming years. So these are the topics that we covered today. First of all, I gave you introduction of poverty and poor people. Dear students, people whom you see everywhere, like people who do not have house, people who do not have basic healthcare facilities, who are living in slums, people who are working as maid in your house, these all are poor. Nearly in India, every fourth person is poor. So after introduction, I gave you two typical cases of poverty. One was of Ram Saran, who is working as a daily wage laborer in an urban area in Jharkhand, and his wife is working as maid to support her husband. Both are not even able to feed their families properly, right? They are not able to send their children to school. They are not able to afford treatment when they fall ill. And the other case that I presented in front of you was of Lakha Singh, who's living in a small village in Uttar Pradesh. And he is paid rupees 50 for a hard day's work, and even most oftenly payment is in kind. few kilograms of wheat or dal or even vegetables. He is not even able to manage 2 square meals a day for his family. His father passed away because of TB and lack of medication facilities. Even soap and oil are a luxury for the family. Because of these two typical cases of poverty, we are able to find out indicators of poverty. See, both of them are having less income and of them are spending less. So these are two indicators of poverty in economics terms. And except money, if we talk about the social life, then social indicators like education, medical facilities, illiteracy, malnutrition, safe drinking water, sanitation, everything is missing for them. So these are social indicators of poverty. Actually, poverty leads to social exclusion. People who are poor are supposed to live in poverty only. And since they are poor, they are not going to be a part of rich society. So social exclusion will be both cause as well as effect of poverty. And the last topic that we cover today is vulnerability. Poor people and poor communities are vulnerable to poverty in the coming years also. So poor people will not be vulnerable to poverty if they get basic facilities of life. Otherwise, they will be poor and will likely to be poor in the coming years. That's it for today. You people just need to revise the content again and again so that you understand what poverty is and which are the indicators of poverty. What is social exclusion and who are vulnerable to poor and poverty. Thank you everybody. See you soon.